Hi everyone and welcome to the second episode of this DevLOG series. Last time we have made a simple character and camera controllers, but this time we're gonna make a lot more progress than that. First thing is that I wanted to know how to make a multiplayer game. So after a quick Google search, I realized that you actually need two things. The first very important thing to have is, you guessed it, friends. But we'll figure out how to make those another day. The second thing is a networking solution, which you can either script yourself if you're crazy enough, or use some already existing assets like Photon or Mirror. Both of them can be downloaded from the Unity asset store. For me, I chose Photon because I found it to be easier to use since there are many resources available and the game is hosted on a cloud server, unlike Mirror where one of the players hosts the game in his own computer, which is less than ideal because if that player gets disconnected or has a bad internet connection, then that affects all the other players in the game. There are some workarounds for this of course, but it just seems like quite the hassle. And if you're interested, you can probably find videos that would explain this a lot better than I can. So after installing Photon and writing some scripts to get some basic networking in the game, I went to get me some of them cool assets. So I found a free skybox, a really cool sci-fi building, and a spaceship. This would serve as a base for the player. And of course, none of these assets will make it into the final version of the game. This is just to give me an idea of the overall feel and to get a sense of what I'd like to do with level design. So after organizing these assets and keeping only the things that I needed, this is now what I have at the moment. So as you have seen, there's nothing really fancy in there, but it is pretty useful to me to have something to block out the ideas that I have for the map. For example, one of the things that I'm thinking about at the moment is that I would like to have many hiding spots for the players, since I want to emphasize the stealth aspect of the game. This means that I need to have some bigger base and play with the elements that are included in the terrain, for example. I would also like to have many doors that would give access to the base, so that enemies can easily get inside and outside without being seen by the player. After that, I realized that the camera position that I had so far wouldn't really work in small spaces. So I had to come up with a solution where we would be able to see the player behind many obstacles, not just a single wall. And at first I tried with a shader that I have coded before, which basically makes a giant hole so that you can see the player behind walls. But after some quick testing, I found out that it wouldn't work great in this instance. And to be honest, I was a bit disappointed by that because I kinda worked hard on it. So what I did is that I repositioned the camera to have like a third-person view. I also went back to using Cinemachine for this since they have this collider which prevents objects from getting in between the player and the camera, which is really useful, so I didn't have to code it myself. I have also added an option to toggle the camera that gives you a wider field of view. So I guess at the moment I'm keeping these settings for the camera since I don't know quite how the game will evolve from this. but basically, this can be something that I'll change in the future once I have the final map designed. After watching some videos and some tutorials online, I have now implemented the new Unity input system, and I figured it's probably best that I just implement it early on so that I can easily get used to it. I have of course made other changes and other tweaks into the game, but I cannot really talk about all of them since this would take forever. And then finally I implemented the inventory system. I have used some free assets for some objects that I have included in the game, like a banana, a sword, an axe, gems, and some wood. All of these items are going to be replaced of course, but for now I just want to get the mechanics working. Now you might ask yourself, why is this inventory system implemented in a multiplayer game? Well, basically I want the player to be able to pick some resources that are scattered in the map. And with these resources, they can craft some abilities that will help them win, like we talked about in the previous episode. With that, all the players will have to come up with a team strategy in order to know which team member will get the resources and which team member will be infiltrating the enemy space and so on. Of course, they can all be doing the same thing at once, or each one of them can be doing whatever, but the point is, they're going to need a strategy, and this is the kind of gameplay that I'm aiming for at the moment. It's not just a game where we can use brute force or shoot all the players to win. By the way, the players cannot die in this game, unless they're disconnected. That being said, implementing this for multiple players has given me some trouble, to be honest, just because I'm not used to coding multiplayer games. But eventually I'm happy to say that I have figured out how to make it work, and so far the player can pick up elements, he can drop them, he can also use some of them, and this will give him some abilities. I have also made a basic UI to show which elements the player has in his disposal, and also show which one he's pointing at. So, for example, when he's pointing at something, like a banana, as it shows on the screen that says press E to pick up the banana or something. Another small thing that I've added is that when we toggle on the inventory, the camera stops rotating, so that we can use the mouse to select a specific resource in our disposal. So I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. I feel like I have made quite some progress on the game, and for next week I'll be working on the character design and creating the first real character of the game. Hopefully also with some animations and rigging and so on. I also want to implement a basic shooting mechanic, and I'll tell you in the next episode why I think this would be a really cool feature. So make sure to stay tuned for that. As always, thank you so much for watching this video and staying till the end. If you like this kind of content, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm also very curious to know your suggestions and feedback, so make sure to leave them in the comments below. And finally, I am live on Twitch every Monday at 7 PM UTC. So if you wanna just hang out and talk with me live, you can of course ask me anything you want, so just make sure to come and join me on Twitch. The link is in the description below, and I'll hope to see you there very soon. So have an awesome day and see you next time.